Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating, kind of quiet revolution that's totally reshaping Indian agriculture. For ages, the goal was super simple, just grow more grain. But that success story came with a hidden cost. Now, a whole new chapter is being written, and trust me, it's about a lot more than just filling up granaries. Let's get into it. So for decades, right, the whole story of Indian agriculture was about one single massive goal, being able to feed itself. And you know what? The Green Revolution was a spectacular success. I mean, production just shot up, going from about 51 million tons back in 1950 to over 308 million by 2021. The country had, by pretty much every measure, solved its food shortage problem. But here's the really crucial question. The nation's granaries were full, absolutely. But were its farmers actually thriving? For way too many, the answer was a clear no. Their income stayed stubbornly low, and the very system that created all this food security was, ironically, creating a whole new set of problems. Something had to change. So what exactly went wrong? Well, that intense, laser-like focus on wheat and rice, while it solved one huge issue, it created a bunch of others. Turns out, the success of the Green Revolution cast a pretty long shadow with some really serious, unintended consequences. Yeah, the trade-offs were pretty significant. All that heavy use of chemicals started damaging the land, hurting its fertility, and even contaminating the soil. We started seeing something called genetic erosion, and even a drop in the share of more traditional crops like pulses. The very foundation of this agricultural miracle was starting to show some serious cracks. So what do you do? Well, the answer wasn't to throw out all that progress. Not at all. It was to build on it with a new, much smarter strategy: agricultural diversification. This was a really deliberate pivot, a strategic move away from, putting all your eggs in one basket. So what does that actually mean in plain English? It's pretty simple, really. It's all about shifting resources. We're talking land, money, and labor, away from just growing those steeple greens and into a much wider variety of new and often much more profitable things. Think of it like expanding the entire portfolio of the Indian farm. Okay, so one of the first and frankly most successful parts of this new strategy has been in horticulture. This is where the fields of India really started to look and produce very, very differently. And listen, this wasn't just about growing a few different things here and there. No, this was a massive expansion into a whole range of high-value crops. All of a sudden, the focus was also on fruits, veggies, spices, beautiful flowers, and even things like medicinal plants, a really clear move towards products with a much higher market value. And the scale of this shift is just staggering. By 2021, horticultural production hit 331 million tons. Now, to put that number into perspective for you, that's actually more than the country's entire food grain output. That signals a monumental change in the agricultural landscape. And this really puts it all in a global context. India is now an absolute powerhouse in horticulture, second in the world only to China. This so-called golden revolution has become a key driver of growth, generating income and opportunities that just growing grain alone never ever could. But diversification isn't just about what you're growing in the soil. Oh no. An equally important revolution has been happening with livestock and fisheries, which is all about moving the Indian farm beyond just crops. The growth in milk production is just as dramatic. I mean, it exploded from just 17 million tons in 1950 to 210 million tons by 2021. That's more than a 12-fold increase. It's an incredible success story that's often called the White Revolution. And this incredible growth made India the largest milk producer on the planet. The largest. It accounts for over 20% of the entire world's milk production. For millions of rural families, this shift provided a vital and often much more stable secondary source of income. And you can see the economic impact right here. By 2021, livestock was contributing over 29% to the agricultural GDP. Fisheries added another 7%. I mean, together, these allied sectors represent a huge and growing slice of the whole rural economy. Okay, so we've seen all the numbers, we've seen the growth, but what does this all actually mean for the people on the ground? Why is this whole diversification thing so incredibly important? Simply put, diversification directly empowers farmers. It creates brand new opportunities, especially in areas that aren't really suited for intensive grain farming. These high-value activities, they generate large-scale employment. And maybe most importantly, they give small farmers access to quicker, more regular, and higher returns than they ever got from traditional crops. Ultimately, the incredible growth in these other sectors is just clear as day evidence of a successful diversification of the entire agricultural economy. It really marks a fundamental shift from a single focus on production to a much broader focus on prosperity. So, India's farms are producing more variety and more value than ever before, which is fantastic. But, and this is a big but, this very success creates the next great challenge. When you have mountains of fresh fruits, vegetables, and milk, how in the world do you get it all from the farm to the consumer before it spoils? The next revolution in Indian agriculture might not be in the fields at all, but in the cold storage, the transport, and the processing needed to support this new, incredible harvest.